Hello, friends. Welcome back to Love Wrestling, and Tara Zepp. Welcome back to Love Wrestling. It is great to see you. It is great to see all of y'all tuned in to this one. I am so psyched. We've never sat down and done like a full-on interview. I think I talk to you like every other goddamn day, but
yeah.
this is the first time, man. So how are you doing? Happy New Year. Welcome home. I saw how much traveling you were doing over the holidays.
Yeah. I'm, I don't want to say I'm traveled out because I am pretty exhausted, but at the same time, I'm like, I cannot wait to get back on the road because I feel like that is my happy place.
I was going to say, like, you certainly don't remain in one place too long.
No, and I've always kind of been like that. And with wrestling, it allows me to travel so much. So it's super fun. I just like plan my own little tours that I make up on my own, you know? Yep. They're not real tours, but like I call them a tour because I'll book like a month away and then make sure I have bookings, you know, all across my little trail to get, you know, around and back again. And I love it.
Was it all for wrestling this time? I know you were in Seattle. I know you finally faced off with Dark Sheik, which was really, really cool for me to get to see. But was it all for wrestling, or like obviously time of the year? Was it for holidays?
I did a little some art stuff too, you know, to make some money along the way. But yeah, it was mostly wrestling. Yeah, and I even saw like some old friends and stuff. It was just like a really nice, like wholesome time, honestly, between like wrestling, reunions with old friends that I haven't seen in forever, and I spent the holidays in Portland, so I got to spend them with some old friends. It was just a nice time.
Well, very heartwarming is certainly the way that I would put the debut of a deathmatch wrestling promotion, No Fate Pro Wrestling, February 23rd at the Pearl in Vancouver. How excited are you, man? Because again, you're one of the most self-motivated people I know, whether it's art or tattoo or anything in between. But as far as I know, and correct me if I'm wrong, this is your first real step into wrestling promoter. So how's the experience been? And I guess what finally inspired you to dip your toes in the water on that end of the business?
So, fun fact, before I started wrestling or before I started training, I moved out here for Lionsgate. It was during the pandemic, so I wasn't even sure when things were opening up again or what was going on, but I was living for a hot moment in New York, and then pandemic happened. I moved to Toronto for like where I'm from. Mm-hmm. I went back there. Shit was chaos, so I went out here and I planned on training eventually. But when I was living in Toronto, I was promoting like DJ nights and shows and drag shows. So I've been promoting technically for over a decade. That's what, you know, I was a tattooer, but also a promoter, a DJ, and through parties and stuff. So I love doing it. I love promoting. I'm an internet whore. I just love like banging shit out and hustling. That's my thing. Like I love keeping busy, as many tasks as possible. ADHD baby, like let's fucking bring it on.
There are a lot of reasons we get along, Tara.
Yeah, I work best under pressure. So but yeah, before I started training, even like when I was living out in Ontario, I wanted to start a promotion. Like as you know, like I started training thinking maybe I'd just manage because I wasn't sure if I was a good enough athlete to be a wrestler. But then I'd also kind of like think like, you know, if I had the money, if I had the resources and the funds, like I would love to run a wrestling promotion or even just a couple shows. Yeah. And so anyway, skip to yada yada. A couple years later, I'm wrestling, networked a whole ton. I know a lot of fucking people. And I was able to fandangle with a company that was willing to put some money into my idea. So myself and my girlfriend, Vanessa, we partnered up and decided, let's just do this and see how it goes. And, you know, I've had so many ideas for so long, just on the back burner, you know, so it's been really cool to actually finally like put that to fruition.
Hell yeah, man. Now,
Yeah.
obviously, Canada's got a lot of great professional wrestlers, but there still isn't a wide-ranging deathmatch scene. Like, I even think that the match that you had there with Eddie and ET the few months ago was the first deathmatch that Vancouver or the island had in decades, if ever. So,
For sure.
what about deathmatch wrestling, or what about bringing deathmatch wrestling, I guess, to Vancouver and bringing it to BC is exciting for you? Because,
Yeah.
stop me if you've heard this before, but you're a little well-versed in deathmatch wrestling yourself?
Yeah, I've done a couple, not as many as I want to be doing, but that's part of the reason of that is because I live here.
Mhm.
We don't really have. I don't think that a lot of places will allow it. I think it's a lot of like legal stuff when it comes to violence or bleeding in Canada. I know
Yeah.
there's even states where it's totally illegal, like New York, like you cannot bleed at a
Mhm.
venue unless it's like, an accident, but on purpose, it's not no good. So I think that's probably part of the reason why it's like that here. But yeah, I mean, I've always been a big deathmatch fan. Big wrestling fan all my life through childhood, but definitely took a moment where I wasn't so thrilled with it as much anymore. I wasn't watching it like committed to it, I guess, until I discovered deathmatch like later on in life, with CZW and FMW and shit like that. Um, and I just fell in love with it again, and it made me feel something, which is what wrestling is supposed to do. It's supposed to make you feel something. It's
Yeah.
not supposed to just be entertainment where you're like, oh cool, whatever, blah, blah, blah. It made me feel something to the core where I would feel emotions, and you know what I mean, like deep
Yeah.
to the core, whether it disturbed me, whether it made me feel incredibly elated or sad, like I really felt something. And I don't know if it's the same for other people, but I've always wanted people to have that sort of feeling when they watch wrestling, the way that I felt when I first saw that stuff.
Yeah.
And I just became addicted to it. Um, and it's funny, when I did start training, when I did start wrestling, I wasn't sure if I wanted to do deathmatch, but I knew I loved it, like passionately, deeply. So, yeah, I definitely dabbled, and now I had that first one, and I will tell you, I've never felt, excuse me, never felt that high in my life from anything. um, it just made me feel like a fucking like a different unhuman, like, you know what I mean, like it was
Yeah,
like
man.
feral. It was feral. I loved it. And I've been kind of chasing that high ever since. So um yeah.
Well, and if I remember right, you had your first death match with John Wayne Murdoch. Am I right?
Mm-hmm.
Got to be exciting. It's got to be exciting not only to have him coming up to Canada. I don't know if he's ever been to Vancouver before, and if it has, it's been a stone's age to say the least.
I
But
don't,
we're
don't
going to
think
run through a
so.
few of these people. But talk to me about John Wayne coming up for you.
Yeah, so he is an incredible worker, and I was very nervous going into that match. Like,
Yeah.
the months, it was planned for months. And I was having dreams, not nightmares, but I was having dreams about that match every single fucking night for like
Yeah.
60 days, like I would be worried. I would like go to bed and then think about it, and then I have the rush in my stomach, and I'm like, oh my god, this is happening. You know what I mean? It was crazy, but it was like, so, oh, like you want that, you want that kind of energy and that feeling to like keep you motivated and
Pressure's not a bad thing
focus.
necessarily.
Yeah, and I wanted to work harder to feel more comfortable to get into that mindset as well.
Yeah.
So which hustled my ass, it really lit a fire under me. So in preparation for that. But yeah, he's great. He took care of me, and he's really good at what he does, and I trust the dude, and a lot of people do, and I would think that if you were to have your first death match, then John Wayne Murdoch is definitely someone you want to wrestle, because he's
I
gonna.
still remember. I can't remember if it was right before or right after we headed down to Philadelphia, but I still remember you having the energy about that match when I saw you last, man.
Yeah,
Very,
probably. I mean,
very cool.
yeah, I still do. It was like one of the best days of my life. I mean, between the debut, I had been wrestling for under a year at that point. I think I was wrestling for 10 months.
Yeah.
And in a way, I had no business to be on a platform like that, but they gave me a shot because I think between the fans and the promoters knowing how big of a fan I have been for so long and seeing me at shows, like flying down to wherever to go to shows, like, you know, I think they were just like, let's give this kid a shot, you know, like, but yeah, I don't know. It was really cool. And then of course, the cherry on top, Mick Foley.
Yeah, bury the lead a little bit, hey?
Which he was the plan all along, but we kept it a secret. So I wasn't even telling anyone. I wasn't telling anyone at class. I told a few of the trainers, but like keeping that sealed was like the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. Cause I'm like, Mick Foley! You know what I mean? Mick Foley! So that was really hard. But yeah, like having him come out, and man, you know what's so cool is that he comes out, does this thing. I'm looking at the audience and I'm seeing fucking fans crying.
Yeah, man.
Because, and that's what I love. You know, it's like they were so emotional to have that surprise. And the whole place was electric. Like, I mean, probably not my best work personally, but it's the feeling that really matters at the end of the day. And I think everyone was really fucking stoked about that, to see me have my first death match. I cried, you know, it was just like a really cool, beautiful fucking experience.
That's a little bit more than just give the kid a chance. Like, you know, not to toot your own horn, but I'll toot it for you, Tara. Like, that's a deathmatch legend. That's a wrestling legend who's going out of his way to really endorse you in a way that he hasn't done for a long time. So I know you and I have chatted about it a little bit privately, but maybe just take me through that relationship, because obviously it wasn't a random occurrence that Mick Foley happens to be coming in and helping you out in your match, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I met him at a GCW. It was a big deathmatch show. It could have been TOS. I think it was Tournament of Survival. And I was there being a mark. And I had a friend who was working with him doing like some of his PR stuff. He was like videoing his meet and greet. Yeah. And I finally got the chance to meet him in person. Through my friend, and we chatted for a little bit, and I told him like I actually hadn't even started training at that point, but I told him that I was and I'm like, I'm gonna be a deathmatch wrestler. And I partially meant it, and I partially didn't know if that would even happen. You know what I mean? I was kind of like, this is what I'm gonna do, and he's like, oh, okay, lady. And then a little time went by, and then my friend Casey Hopkins, who was the one who introduced us, they were together somewhere and they were FaceTiming me, and I was like, you know, like, oh my God, I'm talking to Mick Foley. And then Mick was kind of like, I want to talk to you about some stuff. And I was like, okay, cool. And then we started texting, and he was like, so he was kind of like interviewing me in a sense, it felt like.
Yeah.
And he was like, so what's your interest in deathmatch wrestling? Why do you want to do it? I don't understand. He was kind of like, I think he was like went into a mode there where he was like, I don't want to really support and endorse this style of wrestling because I don't want people, he didn't want people to get hurt. Yeah. And I think, you know, like deathmatch had evolved so much where people were doing crazy spots and getting badly hurt.
Yeah.
And I don't think he wanted to be attached to that too much, which makes sense, you know.
Yeah.
Looking out for workers, but
it's a very weird way to put it, but you want deathmatch wrestling done in the right way, right?
That too. And you know, there's so many like backyarder type, you know what I mean? Just like people who see his work and want to do it in their backyard or whatever and play with glass, and you know, they get hurt. So
yeah.
Yeah, I told him like, yeah, like I'm training, we'll see what happens, yada yada. I just love it, and you know, I looked up to you, sir. You know, you're my inspiration. And then skip to some months later, that graphic goes up, me and John Wayne Murdoch, and he reached out to me and he was like, yo, like, you didn't say yo. Yo.
No, that is how I'm choosing to picture it going the full way forward on that.
Yeah. MC Mick. Yeah, he was like, is this like, he's like, I want to like do something in this. And I was like, shut the fuck up. And he's like, yeah, like, connect me to the promoter, Danny D'Amato, ICW. And they chatted and they figured it out amongst themselves. And they were like, yeah, we'll do a run-in. Tara will go over. this is how I want it to go. He does this double arm DDT. And then I fucking hit my splash, and yeah. So I think he just wanted to like help like put me over because I was, I don't know. I guess he saw something in me. I don't know.
Well, you've got a lot of give a shit, and it's like I even mentioned there off the bat. You know, you're one of the most self-motivated people I know personally in an industry full of self-motivated people. So I am going to ask you to put yourself over here a little bit because, again, it's not a coincidence that Mick Foley's doing stuff like this. It's not a coincidence that people like Nicole and Artie and people like that are going out of their way to put you over. So what do you think has sort of earned you this many opportunities or these wild of opportunities this relatively early in your career? Like you said, Tara, like it's really only been a couple of years, which ain't that long in professional wrestling.
No, my first match was will be 2 years ago as February 16th, I think, or something like that.
Wild.
So it'll be 2 years coming up. I mean, I don't know, because it's funny because I've worn so many hats in my life, like DJing and tattooing and all kinds of things that I've gotten into, music, whatever. And I've always had an end goal. I've always had a goal, and I put a lot of pressure on myself to get there, in everything. And I felt like it took me so long to become a successful tattooer and to become like a good tattooer. It took a long time. With wrestling, I never put a date on anything. Okay. I've worked hard and I've never stopped because I love it, but it's not necessarily because I'm going to be signed by this time. Like, I'm going to be this, I'm going to be that. It's always been like, I'm going with the flow and I'm being authentically myself in every way, which maybe I haven't been in other facets of life before because I want to impress, perhaps, or fit.
Yeah, I was going to say people pleasing sounds like a very rude way to put it, but I'm certainly guilty of that on my end.
But sometimes you have to do that to get where you want to be. But with wrestling, I have not cared about what people perceive me as or judge my character or whatever. It's only been purely artistic expression for me. Yeah. That's it. Like, I haven't tried to fit in any boxes at all. And I think for once in my life that actually worked out for me. And, that's pretty cool because it's kind of validating, I can be myself and the good things happen.
Yeah.
And, okay. That's cool.
This is weird, but I like it.
Yeah. And it's just, so maybe that's why people know that I'm just really passionate about who I am and what I'm doing in wrestling. And, I have a long way to go. And I'm so excited to see how it evolves because I'm already seeing my character evolve. It's constantly evolving and I have ideas for other things in the future. And it just the ideas are endless. And I just, so maybe that's why, I don't know, but,
well, that's what we'll go with. And if the answer changes, I'll get you back on here sooner rather than later. It's been too long since I saw you. It's going to be a lot sooner that we catch up. But like you said, some cool experiences have been coming your way. You and I were chatting before we started recording here about a pretty cool little experience you got coming down the pipe recently announced because, we're timing this interview out because that's what good media people do. Tell us a little bit about what you got coming up in the next few months, Zeb.
With No Fate or just things in general?
No Fate, things in general. Maybe you're hitting the seas sooner rather than later.
Oh, yeah. So where should I start? So at the end of the month, I got a little invite last minute to wrestle on the Chris Jericho AEW Cruise. I don't honestly know how that happened. I have a lot of older friends like Sabu and RVD and Chris Jericho are my boys. And I feel like, I don't know why, but it's I feel like they maybe see more in me than a lot of the younger promoters or, you know what I mean? they're really supportive of me, and they constantly are like putting me over and shit, and I'm just like, like, whoa, like legends. But I don't know what happened there, but I think Chris Jericho found me through Sabu, and he said some nice things, and he's like, hey, I have a couple spaces open left on this cruise. Why don't, like, do you wanna do it? And I was like, yes.
Yeah.
Duh. So I'm doing it. Like, there wasn't really a lot of conversation going into it, honestly. It was just kind of like, I don't know, people have been talking and found out about me and liked my shit, I guess. I don't know, but
Well, hell yeah. Tara, it makes far from one person. I can speak for a lot of Western Canadian fans. I can speak for people blowing my inbox up to want to get you back in Alberta. And let me tell you, I want you back here sooner rather than later, but hopefully chatting one-on-one here over an interview suffices. I'm going to be out there for No Fate, though. You better believe I'm going to get out there for the debut of a friend promotion. I am so excited for you, homie. I am so excited for what you guys have in store. But let the people know, obviously, you've promoted where they can find you on February 23rd, but where can they find you online? How can they keep up with the latest and greatest from No Fate Pro Wrestling?
Okay, so No Fate, the Instagram is, I think, oh my God, I can't even remember right now, but here, let me look. It's a new Instagram account. Sorry.
No, that's my own fault. I'm bad enough remembering my social media accounts that I've had for a decade.
I have like 4 accounts. I have my personal, my wrestling, my shop where I sell clothes, and then wrestling, and then tattooing. So it's hard to remember. Okay, so my personal one is just Villain Tara Zepp. The No Fate Instagram is No Fate Pro Wrestling, all one word. And yeah, that's happening February 23rd at the Pearl in Vancouver. And I just wanted to mention too, we're hosting deathmatch, but it's not going to be purely deathmatch or hardcore. I wanted like an ECW vibe. So we got everything, you know.
A buffet of professional wrestling.
I want to hit every single facet and corner of wrestling. It's it's going to be a little bit for everyone. I think I'd like to close each show off with a death match as the main. If you don't want to be there, you can go home. If you want to stay, I was going to say that one's probably not going on
second, is it?
But I think people will dig it. I really do.
Hell yeah. And I couldn't agree more. Lots of great people are involved, whether you're looking at Jimmy Lloyd, whether you're looking at AJ Gray, whether you're looking at people from Vancouver, Nicole Matthews, Tara Zepp, Amira from Portland, lots of great individuals. Tara, we're going to have to get you back on when the full card's announced, because speaking personally, I am fucking psyched, homie. And congratulations in advance for all of the success. Friends, pick your tickets up. Make sure you support, whether you're there live and in the flesh for the debut of No Fate, or tune in. I am sure they're going to do a great job of putting those matches out for the world to see, because you got to see what we got going on up here in the Pacific Northwest. Tara, thank you once again. Thank y'all for tuning into this one. If you want to follow us for more great content, follow us wherever podcasts are played, videos are viewed, or awesome content created by awesome people at Love Wrestling CA. For Tara Zepp, I've been and will continue to be Spencer Love. We'll see you on the next one, friends. Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you.